Hello and welcome to Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Today we have a two-part special for you. It's the eve of the largest IPO ever to hit India. The 21,000 crore rupee LIC IPO opens tomorrow morning. Our panel of guests tell you whether you should invest in this IPO or not and what the future of the share can be. Later in the show, we bring you an interaction with the biggest foreign investor in the country, an exclusive with SoftBank India. But first, let's find out if you should invest in the LIC IPO or not. We're joined by Ajay Srivastava, CEO, Dimensions Consulting, and Shahina Mukaddam, market expert. Ajay, let's first talk about the issue size. After this being this extremely anticipated, hyped mega issue, they have, of course, taken note of current market conditions. Has that left the markets a little deflated?
I think we should be excited for the one reason. Of course, the IPO is exciting enough, but the fact that the risk of a huge IPO hitting the market, that's receded quite substantially, and that could have serious implications on the capital market. Now it is far more manageable because at 21,000 crore, you're really talking about $1.5 billion from abroad, $1.5 billion from India. India, 10,000-11,000 crore, not a big deal at all. But, the quantum going down so dramatically, I think it's a great positive because the risk for the capital market is off the table. And for the 100 companies trying to list in this country today, it's a big sigh of relief that we don't have a big problem on our hands. We could have a small problem on our hands, which is manageable, but we don't have a big problem now. So I think it's a great thing for the size to go down. And I think with $500 million, $1.5 billion, you are in a comfortable zone, the issue will go through.
So Ajay, who's expected to buy? Policyholders who are getting the steep discount, funds, naturally, retail interest?
Abha, if you look at, say, global institutions, when they build a relationship with the country, some of the things they do is nothing to do with, it's not a big amount, not to do with the long-term fundamentals. They will subscribe to this because that's the way the system works, right? You need to subscribe to this issue to be quote unquote in the good books, even if the economics doesn't dictate it. For Indian policyholders, it's a good flip. 60 rupees they get of the share, and quite a lot of them will sell it out as well once they get it in the market post-listing. So yes, I think people will subscribe. I think a lot of flipping will happen immediately after the listing. A lot of retail will book their profits in it because, at the end of the day, it's a PSU stock in a very competitive industry. So how much long-term fund you can take on this stock to give you returns? So I think a lot of retail participation, but I can see churn happening post-listing immediately, and a lot of them will book their profits.
All right, Shahina, let's get your view in then. What's your take on this big IPO?
I think it is an issue which investors should subscribe to because there are a couple of reasons actually. First being that the size is much smaller than what was earlier planned. And at this size, I think the subscription is likely to be pretty good if you see both from the retail as well as institutional. So while this could be, this could be followed with a follow-on issue a year later, I think there is value on the table for investors.
What do you like about the issue, Shahina? What's attractive to you about the LIC story?
I think if you see on valuation, that is the basic, so valuation, it is priced at a very reasonable valuation compared to some of its local peers. And it's just about one time, its embedded value, slightly higher than that. So valuation is attractive. Two is, I think, going forward, they would be a bit more liberal with their with their shareholders than what they've been in the past. So I think we could see a decent return for the investors going forward. Ratios, I think, are slightly better if you look at the long term compared to some of the local competitors. But otherwise, I think, the persistence ratio is pretty healthy, 60% plus. So that I think is something that holds good for LIC in the longer term and for its investors.
Ajay, what do you think of the price of the issue and, the kind of attention or the interest it's going to attract based around that and how viable it's looking?
This issue at the end of the day, it's the pricing. The P is in hundreds. It's not P's in 20s and 30s at the end of the day, given the profitability of LIC. So to that extent, that's why I said you got to have caution. But I'm 100% sure that everybody is going to ensure, whether Indian mutual funds, DIs, will ensure the fact that there'll be enough buying firepower the day of listing and next 10, 15 days after that to absorb liquidity. So I don't think it will bounce. Whether it bounces up, how much, that's the key question. I don't think they will let it sink. No matter what happens, this issue is going to go through pretty healthily in the first week, 10 days at least.